Session 603. Now, good evening. And some personal material first. Now, up to a certain point, compromise can be a beneficial reaction. Beyond that point, it can turn against you. The compromise of your job, therefore, was beneficial to a point. Robert feared that a point had been reached beyond which you could not afford to go. While still maintaining those ideals and goals that were your own, it was known at your place of employment. An unconscious bargain had been made by you and your employers. They knew precisely how much you would work for and to what ends you would work. They also knew that you did not want more money. This is precisely what you did not want. More money simply would have made the temptation stronger. You made your attitude quite clear. You did not want advancement, and you did not want more money. So you cannot blame them for not affording a temptation that you did not want to begin with. Rob noted, I don't. This hasn't really been a point with me, although at times I would get mad at artistic for at least not offering me something more. At the same time, I told myself the low pay prevented me from ever deciding to make a career of it there, and let it go at that. They said, Robert has learned to make compromises, not always gracefully, but he has learned that they are sometimes important. He is against them on principle, however, and very straightforward in his approach. He saw your life adding up to a circle of compromises that would cost you your vitality, both of you in the end. In some respects, he was right about compromises, and some made in the past out of well-meaning ignorance cannot easily be changed. This concerns your family. Too many compromises do sap your strength and energy, and the work compromise was inhibiting your painting to some extent. The focus upon compromise automatically forces you to withhold directness and energy in all of your pursuits. After a while, despite yourself, you take on to some extent the declarations and attitudes of others who live by compromise entirely, until your own clear-cut ideas and purposes seem more and more unrealistic. Rob noted an excellent point. They said, this is the fear that Robert felt for you. Now, your own ideas and goals are worthy ones, and yours for a reason. They have within them the power to develop and mature. It was known, then, that you would leave before you gave notice, unconsciously perceived. There is some envy. You did not say that you intended to devote yourself to your own painting, and this should be verbalized. The family compromises began long ago, out of a misguided sense of sympathy, and now to some extent or another will continue. Here you are caught in a compromise of emotions. Robert feels this particularly strongly, because he is so sensitive over such relationships to begin with. The situation, however, is such that almost any clear emotion is automatically denied expression, shunted aside, and often replaced completely by an opposite, all under the guise of the idea of, in course, being good and understanding. Ralph noted, again, accident material. They said, unconsciously, the emotions are quite clearly picked up on all of your parts, and clear communication, badly or verbally, almost completely cut off. The quite legitimate spontaneous desires to be of help are therefore often hidden beneath a barrage of resentments at being forced to help for the wrong reasons. Help given resentfully is little help. It does not help the giver or the receiver to any strong degree, and may in fact harm both. Help given spontaneously out of love is the only kind of real help to giver or receiver, and yet this important kind of help is often denied expression because of the inner resentments. Your mother realizes when she is putting emotional blackmail on you, and recognizes when you can't, willingly or unwillingly. The situation's roots lie so in the past, and so pervade the present, that practically little can be changed without the greatest efforts. She knows you come out of obligation. That is like a slap in the face that she must tolerate, and because of her own actions, and straight stayed upon what was right and proper at the expense of true feelings. Your mother is quite shrewd, however, and has grown these years. In the past, she would have been quite able to face and handle everyone's honesty, and honesty would have been far kinder. So the true love and compassion goes crying, while you are forced to express an exterior love and compassion many times. All of this is quite legitimate, and that is undistorted. Now, apart from that, Ruber has his own feelings, which are somewhat exaggerated, but he also usually tries to disregard them emotionally. He says, I overreact to Ra's mother, and intellectually then says, that is silly, but he never allows himself to express the feelings themselves. He does not want to hurt you. He does not want things to be unpleasant. Yesterday he allowed some of these feelings to arise only because he was so miserable. He remembered you and the pendulum, and having none there, instead allowed submerged feelings up. You should know what they were. He was scandalized and outraged. Sundays were the days he could not escape his mother. There was no school, no excuses to get out. It was a day of encounters with her. Her 2-hour bath, the preparation of meals, and the wild help that he could escape after supper for a few hours. "15 years of that at one end of the scale," he thought, "and 10 or 15 in the middle with your mother on Sundays. This reality, as you know, is binding. If he thought she had been a great mother to you, then your Jane's feelings would not be so strong." Rupert felt here was another Ruller and Raver, another tyrant in skirts, taking my free day of the week. Now he felt better physically when he realized the feelings at that point, and what even through a reproachful silence he expressed them. When they returned, he felt them again. Then they vanished again. Allowed their mobility, feelings are beneficial. They replace each other. They ebb and flow. Now, do you want any more personal material? Rob said, who knows? Seth said, then I suggest your break. He would not, though, you see, express those feelings to you. Rob noted, true. Jane didn't express those feelings to me in those terms, but she let me know she was quite upset. She said, as I told you, you chose your families. You gave yourselves as adult situations with your families, mainly with yours, in which you had to relate on an entirely different level and in a different kind of role. You have no children. The family relationship therefore served to give you a kind of contact, an informed education, as it were, so that you can understand what goes on within such relationships. Understanding your own reactions helps you understand the reactions of others. Otherwise, you would find other people's reactions far too alien and not be able to relate to them personally or through your work. This applies to both of you. Rob noted, I have suspected this at times. They said, Rupert is progressing. The exercises, yoga, are good. In case you wondered, his willingness to physically exert himself is important here. The physical effort involved. The body is awakening. In those terms, the sleeping requirements were a result of the sudden use of physical energy. He should find the requirements quite lessened this week, and that should be followed by a noticeable easy release of physical energy during the normal day. Now, give us a moment. I would like you to have several summary sessions together. You can arrange this any way you like, in the place of one regular session, for example. I, of course, will also be present, and perhaps vocally as well. But there are some interchanges that I would like you to become aware of that can be done in practice. Then I would like to explain them to you. Do you follow me? Rob said, yes. They said, your own discussions and the improvement in your relationship as I told you. In one way is responsible for your latest developments in our sessions, and I include the summary, the songs, and the statement. Other developments have been mentioned. I expect that you will play some strong part here on your own, if you want to, this having to do with the reception of summary art. The art and the symbols are closely related. And I do not mean by this that the art is necessarily stylized, as for example, the symbols necessarily were. But none of this could have been done or begun without clearing the debris that had gathered about you both, emotionally and practically. If you go ahead with the work you are meant to do, it will also take care of you. Now, I am going to end our session. Rupert is concerned because you are tired. I am okay. I would be expecting this. They said, I am not concerned, because I know the energy available to you. But I do have his concern to deal with. Rob said, can I ask a question? They said, you may indeed. Rob said, for the last couple of years, I have been wondering about my strong interest in the painting of Rembrandt. When I was a young man in New York City, I even saw some of it in the museums, but I don't recall being that affected by it then. I might vaguely recall some of it, but that's all. They said, now, there are several reasons. You connect me with Rembrandt's period. You also are beginning to become intuitively aware of the strength and the continuity that has pervaded your other lives. You were very close to Rembrandt at one time. You looked up to him. I almost have a name peanut. There are several things you do not understand. I have not explained them. It could be peanut. Also add a date. 1960. Now, there are a series of steps of stone leading to a large building. Inside sculptures are walking. Leo is not there. There is a man vastly interested in the idea of coloring sculptures. The statues. The pigment, however, is hard to prepare. The sculptors do not trust him. Some of the ingredients come from the hillsides, scooped earth, some from herbs. The colors must be prepared differently than for frescoes. Rob asked, is this in Italy? Rob noted, I didn't know whether to interpret or not. Seth Jane had a little trouble with the word frescoes, as though it was unfamiliar to her. She knows the word, however. They said, Florence. Rob noted, in Italy. They said, the master wants to get the same feeling of bulk and the three-dimensional weight and size from flat painting, molding color rather than rock. They think it cannot be done. He is fascinated by the concept. Out of his desire, he applies energy and the color over it, so that the paintings have then the reality he hopes for. Rob asked, by matter, you mean Rembrandt? They said, I do. He travels and learns. He also learns some secrets of color through the man mentioned earlier, and there is a binding agent in his work not recognized as such, a chemical technique learned. I will see what else I can get. Take a break or end the session as you prefer. Rob said, what do you mean when you said I was very close to Rembrandt? They said, you were indeed. You were the man who experimented with color, as applied, however, to sculpts. And one of your discoveries was of the binding agent adopted by the master painter in his work. You were also close friends. You came from a different country, where the weathering effect upon statues was different. This is a long subject, however. There was difficulty with varnishes, sometimes drying before the color upon which they were applied. Also, varnishes that did not dry evenly, but with accumulations of oils resulting. On frescoes, this was disastrous enough. Attempts to paint sculpts, however, that were often for outdoor use sometimes resulted not only in running together color, but in a mold that built up between layers of color. Too much oil fascinated the growth of certain molds. Lead white often stopped the growth of the mold, but it was too harsh a color. The lead content stopped the mold. You learned how to mix colors in such a way that they would dry uniformly, and to apply lead in certain ways. There was a varnish, finally, that you mixed in with some of the pigments after they were prepared, with the dry pigments after they were prepared, that served as a binding agent that also protected each color from the other one. There was a slight lead content mixed into the varnish. Rembrandt took the discovery with him, though you initially developed it for sculpture that stood outside. I am not at all sure here. Write down the word coronet. It is connected. You also experimented with inserting odors into pigment, very briefly, for churches, so that a violet, for example, would smell like the flower. You would mix ground rose petals into the red pigment to be used for a painting of roses. Now, take your break or end the session. Ralph said, "We'll take the break."